DaVo here from the Axiom Body Piercing Studio in Des Moines, Iowa. Located inside the lovely Skin Kitchen. And coming up next, I can only wear gold jewelry. Or can you? We're going to go through some of the basics about gold jewelry, metal selection, and the fact that maybe you can wear other types of jewelry. Coming up next, so stick around. It's not uncommon to have somebody come into the studio. They come in and they say, hey, I want to get that piercing. And I go, great, we're going to do a piercing. Then we start going through the consultation. Part of the consultation is always selecting jewelry. And one of the factors that goes into selecting the jewelry that's going to work best for your piercing is talking about any type of metal allergies that you may have. A lot of people think they're oversensitive to certain materials, especially the most common one would be nickel. And they've gotten this from having ear piercings and wearing very cheap jewelry in it. Now, just because you wore a piece of jewelry that you bought at the mall and had a reaction 3 or 4 days later doesn't necessarily mean that you're allergic to nickel. It could be a lot of different things, including that the plating of that material, like for example, if they said it was stainless surgical steel, but it was really just plating, it might have been the undercoating or of copper, zinc, or a number of other materials that once your body wore off that plating, it started having issues with. So, that brings up the subject, are you really allergic to nickel or not? The only way you're really going to find out is if you go and get tested. That's the best option. If you go to a doctor and say, I think I'm allergic to nickel, contact them. Some signs that you might be allergic to nickel, other than wearing body piercing jewelry, would be things like if you've ever had a problem wearing a watch with a stainless steel back, if you've ever had problems wearing any jewelry that's made of just stainless steel, or probably the most common thing we all come in contact with, which is belt buckles and those little rivets on the back of jeans. If you've had reactions to that, you've broken out, you are probably more than likely allergic to nickel or something else that is in stainless steel. So, you should avoid it. When we're talking about gold, we have to talk about carat weight. Carat weight is a percentage of gold that is in that particular alloy. We cannot use 24 karat, which is the highest, almost pure gold. We generally tend to step that down and add other materials to it to strengthen the jewelry, and also to make the piercing the jewelry more durable, and give it those fun colors we like so much. So, let's talk about carat weight. When we're talking about 24 karat, of course, it's 100%. There may be some trace elements in there of copper and silver and palladium, but for the most part, it's gold. I mean, we're talking trace amounts. We're talking 10 karat, 42% of that is gold. And that's important, and I'll bring that up here in a second. Meaning that 58% of that is other metals. It is not close to being pure. When we're coming down to 14 karat or 18 karat, it's about 75% gold. The rest of it, usually they'll put sometimes nickel in it, but that's pretty rare, but it's usually silver. And that's to give it more of a translucent color, or copper to give it more of a reddish color. When you come to 14 karat, we're talking about 58% gold. The rest of it, probably made of other materials. So back to why 10 karat would be important, or kind of something you should consider. If you have a wedding ring or any type of mid-level, pre-made manufactured jewelry that you bought at a jewelry manufacturer, like one of those big jewelry manufacturing or franchises or what have you, I won't name any. They're usually at malls. We'll just leave it at that. Chances are is the jewelry that you have is 10 karat. The reason why is that with something on your hand, you're coming in contact with surfaces, you're coming in contact with tools, you're washing your hands a lot. That needs to be a great deal more durable than something that's in your ears or elsewhere. So, usually, when somebody comes in and they say they're allergic to nickel and they're wearing like they have like 5 rings on their fingers, I generally go, hey, that's probably 10 karat. You probably don't have a problem with nickel. In some cases, the nickel content of 10 karat can be as high as 6 to 8%. So there's a lot of nickel in there. So that's why 10 karat's important. So why do we do alloys with gold? First off, I've mentioned it a couple times already. We need that durability. When you're getting pierced, the reason why durability is important is a couple different reasons. First off, we need something that's going to keep its shape and not flex or bend or break. The other thing is we need something that is going to be able to hold up to the amount of stress that material is going to be put under during the healing process, whether that be from what you're using to do the healing, from saline solution to maybe slightly harsh soaps, to the amount of pressure that your body puts it under and its contact with bodily fluids. So, for example, when you're doing a lip piercing or a tongue piercing, where the jewelry is going to be in constant contact with saliva, it can be corrosive and cause issues. The other thing with durability is, since gold is such a soft metal, you need something that is durable enough that you can put a high polish on it. The reason why polish or finish is very important is, even though there might be some elements or alloys or materials in there that could possibly cause some reactions or problems, like iron, you have a finish on it that is a protective barrier against your skin, in between your skin, and those things you don't want to get into your bloodstream and cause other issues. The other reason we do alloys is color. If you add certain metals to it, it's kind of like, if you look at, we've all looked at color wheels, we've all played with colors at some point in our life, we're taught that, if you combine this color and this color, you get this color from those base colors. With gold, we're working with base metals that you combine to create different colors. So, for example, yellow gold is going to have less nickel than white gold. Just because it's white gold, it may not have any nickel in it, depending on who manufactured it or who smelted that material in the first place. With like really popular rose gold, it has a lot of copper in it. If you have issues with copper, you may want to stay away from rose gold. So let's break down some of the natural colors of the alloys. Natural gold can contain slight elements of copper, silver, and palladium. When we get into alloys like 18 karat, you're going to have gold, copper, zinc possibly, palladium, or silver could be in that. As we go down 14 karat, you have even more possibility of copper and that good old-fashioned nickel. And then when you go down to 10 karat, even more so. With color-wise, certain colors like white gold is going to have some type of silver to kind of lighten up the yellowness. So they're going to use, in some cases, palladium or platinum, which is a good choice. In other cases, they're going to use a lot of silver to get it to have that yellow, that whitish tone. So that's why, if you are going to go with white gold, you should get palladium white gold, because it doesn't contain any nickel whatsoever. Situations where you should avoid gold. First one, if you are in any way, shape, or form allergic to nickel or copper, if you've had problems with either of those materials, you want to be very careful about figuring out exactly what's in that alloy. Try to get as high of a carat rate as you can, which is the kind of sweet spot is 14 to 18 gauge or 18 karat, and I would suggest 18 karat if you have that sensitivity and you know for sure you have a sensitivity in either of those directions. You should also avoid white gold if you have problems with nickel, unless you can specifically know exactly what is in that alloy. Another thing you want to be concerned about is if you've had reactions with silver or zinc. If you've had reactions with either of those things, you want to avoid gold. Where the piercing is located. If the piercing is located in an area that's going to get a lot of contact from bodily fluids, you should probably avoid getting pierced with gold. A couple different reasons. First off and foremost, if you have any type of metal sensitivity, there's a possibility that since the metal is soft, it will wear off that finish, and then whatever is part of that alloy will begin to leak out, and you'll have contact with your skin. The other issue is discolorization. Even in a piercing that is not in a part of your body that comes in contact with bodily fluids, there is a possibility of your body just naturally breaking down the finish and changing the color of the jewelry. This is more so in areas where it's going to come in contact with saliva, urine, etc., sweat, debris. So, it's why I generally advise not piercing initially with gold, but piercing with either titanium or niobium or implant grade surgical stainless steel. It's more durable, it's going to hold up during the healing process a lot better, and after it heals, there's not an issue switching out to gold if you want to. The other thing is that often we have to pierce big to allow for inflammation and swelling depending on the piercing. So piercing initially with a cheaper material is going to be more cost effective in the long run. So instead of spending that, like let's say you're getting your tongue pierced, so instead of spending an extra $120 for a gold barbell that you're going to downsize to a shorter one in roughly about anywhere from a week to 3 weeks, take that money that you would have spent on that, get it pierced with implant grade steel or titanium, and then put that towards that really great piece that you want to get, instead of blowing all your money on a piece of jewelry. That will kind of be a backup after that. Other places you want to avoid gold jewelry is anywhere that gets a lot of contact with clothing or sharp objects. The thing with tongue piercings, I already mentioned, or oral piercings with gold, is because it is a soft material, it's going to give before your teeth do. That's cool, that's great, because we don't want to chip teeth, but you're going to constantly have to replace pieces because of it. I've had reactions to stainless surgical steel. Why have you had those reactions? Could be a lot of different things. First thing is that stainless steel does involve a pretty broad range of purity of alloys. Everything, as I always say, it's everything from motorcycle spokes all the way up to implant grade surgical stainless steel and medical equipment. So, if you purchase the jewelry at a less than reputable place, or you bought it at the mall or some nonsense, and you weren't sure exactly who manufactured it, it might have been the jewelry alloy in the first place that wasn't up to par with where you want to be. A lot of people use the 316L or 316LV as the catch-all marking, unless it has that separate testing that verifies that it is in fact implant grade. It can mean a lot of different levels of quality of jewelry and material. Finish is very important when it comes to body piercing jewelry, regardless of the material. But with implant grade steel, where you're dealing with things like nickel and iron and lead, finish is very, very important. If it doesn't have that mirror-like finish to protect your body between those elements we don't want to get into your bloodstream and in contact with your tissue, with your body, you're going to have issues, regardless of what is in there. Whether it's nickel or what have you, you're going to have problems. So, the quality of the jewelry is very important. And finish is very, very important. Plus, you want a smooth finish so that tissue grows evenly and well, doesn't have areas that can harbor contaminants and other problems. And when it does move, when you change the jewelry, you want something that's smooth. It glides into the piercing opposed to something that's like little speed bumps. It was plated. Wasn't really even solid implant grade surgical stainless steel. The plating wore off, whatever was underneath it, you had a reaction to. So, never buy plated jewelry, regardless of the materials, if the undercoating is something you possibly have a reaction to. There's a lot of things on the market, like gold-plated stainless steel and titanium-plated stainless steel. The plating wears off. You're going to lose the illusion anyway. It's just not worth the money. It's junk. Possibly your best option would be titanium or niobium. Both of those things do not contain nickel. Niobium doesn't really contain anything. It is not quite as easy to work with. It's a little bit more difficult, but it holds up well during the healing process. The only thing I would suggest is avoiding the color black, because it can create kind of some ridges and have kind of a less than polished mirror-like smooth finish. Titanium, it is an alloy. It does contain other elements. However, it's a very, very strong material. So you can put a really high mirror finish on that and have that protection you need. The other thing with titanium is it does come in a gold color. That looks pretty darn close to gold. So that may be a possibility of something you want to wear if you're really sticking to that fashionable gold stuff. Implant grade surgical stainless steel is also another good alternative. It is very durable. It has a very strong material. The finish will usually isolate all of that stuff you don't want to get in contact with your body and into your bloodstream very well. And I've had stainless steel pieces that I've worn in areas of my anatomy that did come in contact with a lot of bodily fluids for a long period of time. And I've had some of these pieces in for 20 plus years and they still look almost brand new. Things to avoid when you're buying gold jewelry. Where you're buying it at. Make sure that the manufacturer that's producing the jewelry is in fact in the body piercing industry. There are other companies that mass produce body piercing jewelry that is marked as 14 karat gold or 18 karat gold. The problem is they're not concerned as much about the alloy or the finish as you're going to get with somebody that specifically designs jewelry to specifically fit in the body. The other problem is that often the actual way that they are manufactured and how the closures are and etc. isn't really durable enough to wear on the body for a long period of time. Threaded gold jewelry does strip out. It's very important that you go to a jewelry manufacturer because what they're going to do is they're going to, or body piercing jewelry manufacturer, they're going to tap it out and actually add a more durable threadings in there so that it doesn't strip out. Like tapping in either a piece of implant grade steel or titanium that they can thread well. The other problem with it is, usually they'll stamp the jewelry and it's usually right on the wearing surface. So that 14 karat is brushing against that piercing every time you move or the jewelry moves. It's usually a sign that it's a low-end manufacturer and something that should be avoided. It is mass-produced for sale at your local mall or wherever your fine jewelry franchise is located at. Finish. It should be a mirror-like, almost translucent finish when you look at a gold piece, especially if it's 18 karat. Also, it's a good idea the best quality is probably 18 karat with palladium electrocoating or plating. It adds an additional barrier and it also makes it a lot easier to polish that up really high and tight so you have that isolation that we want. Whenever in doubt, what it comes down to is ask a piercing expert. Go see your piercer. Talk to them about materials. Ask them why. Ask them so forth. Why do you like this material over this material? One thing you need to do is subscribe so you get notifications. I post body piercing education videos, including our aftercare instructions, on a regular basis. There's a number of them in our catalog and on the playlist, so check those out. Also, we post weekly updates of what's going on here at the Piercing Studio, and also Tattoos of the Week from Wesley and Jack of the Skin Kitchen and any guest artists we happen to have in town. So like us, hit the notification, or like this video too, because it's like applauding. We like that. It makes us feel better, all warm and fuzzy, like. That's not creepy. Anyway, also subscribe, hit the notification button, and I hope to see you in the future.